What up, sports fans? Waxon Wednesday, Jay Waxman, top level. Let two guys talk sports. Let's go. All right, my focus today is going to be all on college basketball. So I will start by saying this: what a season for the Purdue Boilermakers. 100. It felt 100% like a dream. Of course, the thing is, it was no dream. This season really did happen. But sometimes you just can't believe it happened. But it was no dream. So from getting embarrassed by number 16 Fairleigh Dickinson University to runner-up in the NCAA tournament a year later, that is a great turnaround for a program like Purdue. And sometimes, like Virginia, it takes an embarrassing memory like that to provide a jolt and motivation to go the distance the next tournament or the next year, to prove your doubters wrong and all that stuff. Of course, unlike Virginia, Purdue, well, they didn't win it all. But still, I'm so proud of this Purdue team. Like, they fought hard all season long. They battled critics, and you know what? It wasn't always easy at times, but you know what? All season long, this Purdue team showed what they were capable of achieving. They proved that they were one of the best teams all year long, from start to finish. You think about it. In the Maui Invitational Tournament, all three teams they beat in the Maui Invitational went to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. Those were all really good teams that Purdue beat. And they had a rematch with two of them and won the rematches, of course. And the back-to-back Big Ten championships. And they won the Big Ten by at least 3 games, just like last season. And, of course, the crown jewel of it all, they got to the Final Four for the first time since 1980, and for the first time since 1969, they went to the national championship. They had a shot to win it. It doesn't get much better than this. If you're a Purdue Boilermaker fan, this was the kind of season you were hoping for. You know, we weren't sure it was going to happen because of, Purdue's history in the NCAA tournament. This season, without doubt, Final Four or bust for the Purdue Boilermakers. And they got it done. They made it to the Final Four. So, 100% successful season. Yes, I would have loved to have seen the Purdue Boilermakers win a national championship. I would have loved to have seen them beat UConn and win the national championship. Get that first national championship in school history, or first NCAA tournament national championship. Keep in mind that Purdue does have a national championship from 1932. That was in the Helms days when we voted national champions. So that's much more different than proving it. But still, it was a bummer. So proud of the team, though. I was only disappointed that we didn't win the national championship, but I was not disappointed in the team. Gave it everything they had, just not enough. UConn was better. Simple as that. And I will go into great lengths about UConn in the next topic. But, when I think back on, you know what? This is a team that we're going to remember for many, many years. Many of us are going to remember for many, many years to come, Again, would have liked to have seen them win a national championship. Would have loved to have gotten some natty gear. Of course, the shirt you see in the background, that Final Four shirt, it would have probably been a national championship shirt instead of a Final Four shirt. But that shirt, still, nice consolation and brings back, and a reminder of what a great season, a great best consolation you can ask for, and a reminder of what a great season Purdue basketball had. I mean, best season I've ever seen, and one of the best seasons, if not the best season. Well, it's at the very least no worse than second behind 69. Although, you know what? Scratch that. Best season ever in the history of Purdue basketball. Zach Edey all year long proved that he was the best player in college basketball. And hey, he deserves back-to-back Naismith winners. Back-to-back Naismith trophies for Zach Edey as National Player of the Year. Congrats to him. And Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer took huge strides forward this March. Lance Jones, missing piece for this Boilermaker team. He's a big reason why they got to the Final Four, because they didn't take things too seriously. They just were loose in this tournament. And guys like Trey Kaufman-Renn and Mason Gillis and Ethan Morton having a huge impact. Cam Heide and Miles Colvin, other guys. Everybody on the team stepped up. And that's why Purdue went as far as they did this season. That's why I'm so proud of this basketball team. So, when I think back to it, would I have loved to have seen him win a national championship? Absolutely. But you know what? I'm not disappointed. It would have been, but I'm not disappointed at all. Okay? I'm still on an emotional high sports-wise. I'm still thinking about it and just thinking about the great memories from this season. And, of course, Purdue going to the Final Four and then defeating NC State to go to the national championship, the cherry on the top of a great season. So, and to the seniors, Zach Edey, Ethan Morton, Mason Gillis, and Lance Jones, thank you so much for your contributions to Purdue basketball, and thanks for being Purdue Boilermakers, and best wishes in your future. You've worked hard all season, and you've earned the reward. Without those four guys, Purdue would not have gotten to the Final Four in 2024. So don't worry about me, sports fans. Still on a high. Nothing but smiles over here. And something I'm going to be thinking about for weeks to come. What a season for Purdue basketball. So, overall, I'm completely satisfied with the way this season has gone. And like I said, my hope was I just wanted to see this team make it to the Final Four. I just wanted to see him go to a Final Four in my lifetime. And now that's happened. And now the bar is raised now for Purdue basketball, the bar's been raised. Now we got to keep pushing. Go get that national championship. Hope to see him do that in my lifetime. I'm happy that they made it to the Final Four this year, though. That was the big goal. It was Final Four or bust. They got it done. And you know what? And I will say this, to the critics of Purdue basketball, to the Matt Painter critics, the Zach Edey critics, how do you like us now? All right. And with all that, I will end this subject by saying that. And also, I just want to say, my dad, I'm so happy for my dad, too, with the way this season's gone. The guy I'm happiest for the most is my dad. He taught me what it means to be a Boilermaker. And I'm so happy he got to go to a Final Four. He got to go to the Final Four in Arizona. Got to spend some time with his fraternity brothers who they were great friends in his Purdue days. They were on the fraternity. I don't remember the name of the fraternity, but got to spend some time with his fraternity brothers, and they got to go to the Final Four and the national championship. So I'm so happy for my dad and that he got the opportunity to do this. So, and can't wait to hear more about his adventures there. But cheers to the Purdue Boilermakers. Cheers on a great season and a season of a lifetime. And cheers to Zach Edey, the Boilermaker of a lifetime. Boiler up, hammer down, all hail Purdue, and all hail our old gold and black. And now finally on to my second subject. Purdue fell short in their quest to win a national championship. Not to get to the Final Four, but in their quest to get the national championship, they lost to arguably the best team in college hoops this year, in the UConn Huskies. First of all, congrats to Dan Hurley and his guys. They deserve to win. And I will give them massive, massive props for this. They beat Purdue in a way that no other team before them had beaten Purdue in the last few years. Most teams, when they beat Purdue, they team up on Zach Edey. They pretty much, you could say, maul him in the paint, hoping not to get those hoping the refs swallow their whistles. That's not what UConn did to beat Purdue. They did it in an entirely different way, and I commend them for this. Instead of trying to stop Zach Edey, they instead took away the perimeter for Purdue. Purdue only attempted 7 3-point shots in that game and only made one of them. Purdue was one of the best 3-point shooting teams on the season, and they only made one against the UConn Huskies. There's no question, without a doubt, that UConn kicked our ass in the national championship. We got our asses kicked by UConn. But at the same time, everybody who was in UConn's path in the NCAA tournament, they got their asses kicked in a way. Yes, even Alabama, who in my opinion put up the best fight against UConn. Now, Purdue was the best team that UConn met up with in the NCAA tournament. Alabama put up the best fight, though. But even so, and with the amount of threes that Alabama made, it just wasn't enough. And UConn was just too much for Alabama. And they were more than too much for Purdue. So, that was one of the best basketball teams I've ever seen. And in my opinion, one of the top 3 best college basketball teams I've ever seen in my lifetime. Great UConn team. They deserve to win it. I mean, and hey, like I said, Purdue is a great team this year. And one of the best, and the resume speaks for itself. But UConn, this season, they were an absolute juggernaut. You got teams like Purdue right here, but then way up there, you got UConn. UConn was well above everybody else. They were in a league of their own. And you know what? Watching them play in the NCAA tournament, I was like, I might I'm probably going to regret picking Purdue to win the national championship because UConn looks unstoppable. And they never had an off day. And even though at times they were challenged, they just were never off in their game. And Purdue, which had been a great second-half team, was no match for UConn, who was an amazing second-half team. And they showed it. So, props to the UConn Huskies, Dan Hurley and the UConn Huskies for a well-earned national championship and back-to-back national championships. So, yep, it's official. College basketball is now run by UConn. So, overall, it was a really fun Final Four to watch, and not just because Purdue was in it, but, you had teams that had either ended, you had 3 teams, 2 of which had ended Final Four droughts, Purdue and NC State. You had Alabama, who made it to their first Final Four, and back-to-back Final Fours for UConn, of course. And, it was really fun to watch. Like I said, Alabama gave UConn the best fight out of all the teams they faced in the tournament, just didn't have enough. And, of course, I thought NC State put up a good fight against Purdue in the Final Four. But they just didn't have enough to take down the great team that was the Purdue Boilermakers. And, defensively, NC State gave Purdue fits, but their offense just couldn't keep up with Purdue's offense. But a lot of respect, but mad respect to NC State, especially DJ Burns. He can play basketball. That is for sure. And overall, the national championship game, it was hard to watch because it wasn't much of a contest. It was all UConn from start to... it was a good game at the half, but second half, UConn just took over and ran away. And I kept holding out hope, but I just knew Purdue wasn't going to be able to close the gap and take it and steal the national championship away from UConn. I just kind of knew at that point, it's over. But I guess in some ways it's better to have that than to make a comeback, get close, and then have your heart ripped out in the last few seconds because UConn makes a shot. So, because the feeling of that is worse. I was hoping for a closer... I thought Purdue could give them a good fight. I was wrong. But, Purdue, they gave it everything they had. It just... UConn was just too much for Purdue and every other team they faced, The way they played, just amazing defense and great offense. They were balanced much like Purdue, but much more balanced. Their defense definitely gave Purdue fits at times as well, and even Zach Edey had trouble defending them. And offensively, they drove well in the paint. They didn't shoot a whole lot of threes, but they made plenty of them. And got that ball inside and attacked. The one positive I can take away in terms of Purdue's performance is that Zach Edey outplayed Donovan Clingan by quite a bit. He had 37 points to Klingan's 8 points. It's just that Purdue, like I said, UConn took away Purdue's perimeter and gave the guards all sorts of fits UConn's guards, they gave Purdue's guards all sorts of fits all night long. So, again, congratulations to UConn on winning the national championship. And still, despite the loss in the Natty, all the happy in the world for my Purdue Boilermakers. Nothing for those guys to hang their heads about. They should be proud of everything they accomplished, and because they lay down the effort all the way, all season long. So I'm proud of that. And looking at my bracket, this is what it looks like right now. Unfortunately, I did not predict the correct national champion. But I'll stand by that pick. I will die on that hill. I believed Purdue was going to have a chance, but I listened to my heart more than my mind. My mind said, I don't think this is going to be a natty year for Purdue. My heart saying, no, they're going to have a shot. But just wasn't meant to be for Purdue, but a great season. But hey, this kind of season I was hoping for from the Purdue Boilermakers. Got it. Dream season. Now, question is, am I going to tear this up? We'll see. I don't know. If I do, I'll post a video of it, but for right now, I'll just toss it. So, because I'm actually kind of proud of that bracket, because I usually suck at bracketology, but it was actually one of my better years for predicting the bracket. So, anyway, and then some final thoughts. I thought the officiating in both the Final Four and the National Championship was really, really good. They let the teams play, and I'm cool with that. Even if not a lot of fouls that should have been called were being called. Sometimes you just got to let them play. And I was fine with that. And Purdue was fine with that, too. Same with UConn. And the officiating in the National Championship was pretty good. I've not too many criticisms there. The only thing I will say, the only criticism I have in the officiating for the National Championship is they needed to tee up Dan Hurley, because as great of a coach as he was getting away with a bit too much in that game. Like, he was putting his foot on the hardwood too many times for my liking, and it was getting on my nerves, as well as the nerves of everyone else. Otherwise, that's my only complaint. They just needed to either give Hurley a warning or hit him with a technical, because it's the same thing with problem with Kim Mulkey. They get away with too much, especially with putting their feet out on the court. Like, get out of the players. He even shoved one of his own players. And I didn't like that. But other than that, good job by the officiating crews in the Final Four and the National Championship. So, overall, awesome Final Four. And, hey, like I said, the only bummer is college basketball season's over and we're in the off season. So, till next year, Boilermaker Nation. But before we get into that off season, it's time for my third and final subject, and I'm sorry this has taken so long. Well, we got the coaching carousel in the off season for college basketball. Just got a whole lot more interesting. And by the way, sorry, I'm talking too much, and now it's covering me, making me cough. Sorry. The big thing I learned just before the national championship, middle of the night on Monday, it was reported that John Calipari was working on a deal with the Razorbacks of Arkansas to become their next head coach. And finally, just today, it was announced that John Calipari will be the next coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. He is leaving Kentucky. And I don't have much to say about it, other than the fact that I think this is good for both sides. Kentucky needed a change, and John Calipari needed a change as well. And this is going to work for both sides. Arkansas gets a good coach after Eric Musselman announced he would be taking the USC job. So Arkansas, they got plenty to look forward to in John Calipari. His resume speaks for itself. He'll create good teams. But the question is, will he keep that same approach he had in Kentucky with getting all the NBA players and having a team filled with one-and-dones every year? If that is the case, that's not good for Arkansas. You don't want that. He needs to change his approach at Arkansas. And for Kentucky, this works out because, like I said, for the reasons I mentioned, the one-and-dones. Now Kentucky can get a coach that will focus on not only developing players, but developing players and having players graduate and go to class. Not that Calipari didn't have guys that went to class and graduated, but he just had so many players that were one-and-done. Now Kentucky has an opportunity to get not only the coach of their dreams, because they got all the resources, because it's Kentucky, it's the biggest name in college basketball, but also they have a chance to get a guy that will build the kind of teams that Kentucky needs to go the distance, to not only get out of the first weekend, but to get to the Final Fours, win more national championships, hang more banners at Rupp Arena. This will give Kentucky a chance to be respectable again, more than respected again. Because Kentucky is a program that's been respected the last few years, but not feared. In fact, they've been prone to a lot of upsets, like what happened this year against Oakland. And, of course, St. Peter's the year before. Now, the 2 years before that. And, of course, the year before Oakland, they went to the round of 32 and then lost. They weren't getting anywhere with Calipari, and things were getting kind of stagnant. So, this is, like I said, good change for both John Calipari and Kentucky. Now, question is, who is Kentucky looking at? That's the big question. There are two names they have honed in on. One is Scott Drew of Baylor. And right now, it looks like he is the favorite to take the job. So, I think they're in talks with him, and that's a guy that I think they can get. You know, although Baylor does have a lot of money and resources, Kentucky has dwarfs. Like, Baylor's got a lot of money, a lot of NLI, a lot of the facilities are great there, but everything they have, Kentucky has more. You know, but their facilities are great. NLI's higher as well as money. They can pay Scott Drew more. And the other guy they're looking at is the guy who just won the national championship with UConn, Dan Hurley. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him reach out and make a huge offer. And in fact, that's what I'm hearing too. I don't know if he'll take it, though, because Hurley seems happy right now at UConn. And UConn can also offer a lot to Dan Hurley. I don't know if it'll be more than Kentucky, but we'll see. It all depends on what the family wants for Dan Hurley. But I think right now, Scott Drew looks like the favorite to take the job. And it would not surprise me if Mr. Drew or Coach Drew takes the job and leaves Baylor for Kentucky. Because, hey, that's a chance to coach. That is a chance to coach a blue blood. You know, we know. Another reason I also think that Dan Hurley wouldn't leave UConn is because, hey, UConn's a blue blood right now. They're a modern-day blue blood right now. So, and they run college basketball. So why would you want to leave when you're in a good spot? For Scott Drew, he's in a good spot, don't get me wrong. But one has to wonder, has he peaked with Baylor? Was 2021 the best that things were going to get for Baylor under Scott Drew? Not that they can't make another Final Four or win another championship, but one has to wonder there. And will a change or a move from Baylor to Kentucky give Scott Drew a new opportunity, a new challenge to show that he can win it all with the biggest name in college basketball? We'll find out. So I'll let you know if more news comes out of all of it. But that's just, right now, that's the big story outside of the Final Four and national champ. That's right now biggest story in the college basketball offseason at the moment. We'll see how it goes. On to this day in sports history. And on this day, the 10th of April, 1896. So we're going back to the 1800s. Spyridon Lewis of Greece wins the inaugural Olympic marathon with a time of 2:58.50 in Athens. He would wind up running the last lap accompanied by Constantine I, the king of Greece. Alright, sports fans, that's all I got for this week's Waxon Wednesday. Enjoy your week, and thank you so much for watching and supporting me and Tyler. We do appreciate it. Jake Waxman from Two Guys Talk Sports. Thank you for watching this week's Waxon Wednesday. Bob, farewell, everyone.